Hey y'all, I'm Tess Holliday, and welcome to my slumber party. Each week, I'm going to introduce you to folks who are making the world a better place. So put on your pajamas, grab a snack, and let's change the world from our bedroom. Hey y'all, welcome to my slumber party. I'm so happy to have you guys hanging out with me today. And I want to introduce my two special guests. First of all, I have Bowie, my 4-year-old. Say hi, Bubba.
Hi.
And I also have someone that I am such a mega fan with, and now I'm best friends with. It just happened in the last 5 minutes. It's Supernanny, Joe Frost. Hi, Joe.
Hi, Joe.
Thanks for being here. I am a mega fan of Joe, and for those of you that don't know who she is, I mean, I find that impossible. Joe is the Supernanny. So I have grown up watching her on TV. Literally, her whole essence is going into these folks' houses on TV. You said you've been doing this for how long?
Yeah.
On TV.
On TV, 16 years.
16 years. And I've been watching it literally since it came out. We figured out I started watching it a year before I had Riley, my oldest. So obviously today we are going to mainly talk about parenting in this day and age, COVID and all of that. And she's going to let us know how she's making the world a better place, one family or kid or parent, all of it at a time, and what it's like to be on TV and living in the limelight. Because I want to gush about her for a second. Part of what I have always loved about, how do you want me to call you? Do you want me to call you Joe? Do you want me to call you Nanny Jo?
Yeah, Joe. Call me Joe, yeah. Why not?
I'm just for those of you that aren't watching on YouTube, I'm trying to hold it together and I'm not. I'm crumbling. Part of what I loved about Joe and why I was so honored to have her as my guest today is that to have someone on TV that was plus size and doing something that commanded so much respect, and it was never about her size. It was always about her abilities and how good she was at what she did, really was so inspiring because I've been plus size my entire life. And every time you had someone on TV that was plus size, it was always about their weight or their size. It was never about how phenomenal they are. And I love that about you. Bowie has slumped off of his chair while I'm saying this for those that aren't watching. Bubba, sit up. Sit up. And so, yeah, I'm just honored to have you here today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And your kind words. Bowie,
what are
you doing?
Bowie
Come and sit up by the mic. Look.
Bubba, sit up at the
by the mic.
Why Bowie's here? It's not because I have Supernanny, because that would be ridiculous. It's because he has been begging me to be a guest on my podcast. All right, you got to sit up. And he's only going to be here for a couple minutes.
I love him.
The headphones have fallen off. They're on the ground.
Yeah,
now.
he's done. He's all right. I'm having fun.
We've been in the studio for about an hour before we filmed, so he reached his moment.
Yes.
All right. Sit here. Sit down. You got the microphone.
Next to you.
You want to sit next to me? Come on. He's going to be in my lap for. He's going to be in my lap for about
Come and sit up.
2 minutes, and then he's going to go outside and play. Okay.
Well, and I can have my gummies.
I promised him that he could have gummies. Yes, I did.
He's done well, though. He was here for quite a bit before.
He has.
We started asking all the questions.
He did. He was being good until literally I shouldn't say good. He's always good. All right, but I'm going to hold these cards.
But they get impatient, don't they? You know?
They do. And
he's done, I think he's done well, considering we were chatting they were all setting up, for us to do this.
And I was so nervous about having you on. And then the minute you walked in, you felt like a warm hug. And then I found out that you and I are both Cancers.
Yes.
So, of course, I mean.
I'm a Cancerian, yeah.
You are. So, for those of you that don't know, Bowie is my 4-year-old, and he has just been my biggest supporter for my podcast and has been asking to be a guest. So, when I heard that Joe said yes to join my podcast after I picked myself up off the ground, I asked Bowie if he wanted to be my guest. So, Bowie, do you want to tell me what your pajamas are that you have on today?
Yes.
Can you talk into the microphone? But you got to sit up. You're going to have to like stand up to do it.
Okay.
Because, yeah, it's just chaotic over here. But can you, here, in my lap, but in the microphone, tell everybody what pajamas you have on.
Sally from Monsters Inc.
Yes. And can you ask Nanny Jo what pajamas she's wearing?
What pajamas
In the
are you
microphone.
wearing?
Ask her. In the
What pajamas are you wearing?
Well, no particular brand, to be honest. I think these are Target, and this is DKNY.
You just wearing
And that is just like the sleepwear.
some cozy,
Some cozy sweatpants.
pants.
Yeah.
And mommy, and what did you say?
Wearing some cozy shirts, cozy pants.
Yes, we're wearing cozy shirts and cozy pants.
Loungewear, just to hang out in.
And I am wearing just an oversized t-shirt that has like skateboarding on it because Bubba loves skateboards and it has numbers on it. And you've been really into math lately, huh? What? Okay.
He can see himself, right? He's like, he can see himself. You can see yourself, right?
He can see himself on the screen. So he's freaking out right over here. Do you want to tell everybody what the snacks are that you... So Nanny Jo has allergies and we were very particular with snacks. But the thing is, I forgot them. So the snacks we have today are just Bowie snacks. And Bowie, tell everybody what your snack is in the microphone.
Gummies.
And what are you drinking?
Apple juice.
Yes. With 90% water. Yes.
All right.
Nice.
So, that's our snacks. I was going to have Bowie stick around, but I think, Bowie, do you want to go outside and eat your gummies and chill now? You want to be done? All right.
Yeah, because we think you've got ants in your pants.
Yes.
Yeah, we think you're fidgety bottom.
Okay. So Bowie has left the studio. It's just Joe and I hanging out now. He's actually, I see him over the audio engineer's shoulder. He's supervising is really what I brought him for. So you were telling me that you met your husband on Supernanny.
I did. Yeah. I came over from England with this wonderful opportunity to help American families, and then met my husband as well.
So he was a producer on the
production manager. Yeah.
I love
the behind the scenes, running around.
I feel like that would be really sexy though. Being able to like see this, like you're doing this and you're seeing this person that's like juggling it all and he's very handsome. So
yes, he is very handsome. Yes. And doing it, it was for me, it was a juggle though for me because, you're doing your job professionally and there's a hell of a lot of discipline that goes into doing that because you're traveling. I was on the road back then because there was, 23 episodes and 7 seasons of that, which would now be the equivalent, right, of 14 seasons.
Wow.
So we've just done an 8th. So 23 episodes. Back then it was 1 season, right? Now there's like 2 in that amount. And we were on the road constantly. So 48 weeks a year I was on the road. You have fun, but then there's, I'm incredibly disciplined, and the importance of getting sleep and having that 100% focus when you're with the families. And the understanding of, when you're on set and you're helping families, everybody's doing their job, so you're in professional work mode.
You're very good with boundaries. And of course that would equal with being good with boundaries in your own personal and professional life because you don't get to the level that you're at and have these seasons and do all of this if you're not prioritizing yourself. So
true, but it doesn't always make you popular. I can tell you that much.
I mean,
right?
but also,
you learn by having those boundaries in place, and sometimes that can cost you here and there on every level. On every level,
I just tweeted this. It's funny you said that. I just tweeted literally 2 weeks ago, less than 2 weeks ago. I said, I don't care about being popular. I just want to change the world. And I feel like that's probably very applicable to you because, listen, when you are trying to change things, it's going to be unpopular. And I just don't want to, I don't care if I'm liked. I just want to make an impact and change things. And then, I've got a good life. There's enough people that like me. I'm fine.
But I also think when you do something you're really passionate about and you really love, you do it with conviction.
Yes.
And I don't follow the herd in that way. Like I remember being asked once, well, right now it's really in and trending on a parent level. Families are doing this. But I wasn't feeling it. And it may be trending, but I can see where all the pit holes are.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not going to say something or do something because it's trending in the parenting space. Like, I'm going to say things that are truthful. I am my authentic self, and integrity to me is everything. It's absolutely everything. And I'm okay when I wake up in the mirror and I look at myself. Okay, I'm okay with that. And I want, as much as I am, a global parenting expert that has, 3 decades under my belt, I am also a woman.
Yes.
And I help and want to inspire so many young women who, are in a space right now with social media that I think is so conflicting for so many young women as well. And young women who are raising families.
Yes.
So there's so much in respects to being accountable and having integrity and being your authentic self and how you show up. And for me, when you do your job with conviction, there's no left or right or a squeeze over there. It is what it is. That's it, So for me, that's incredibly important. And it doesn't make you popular all the time. And parents don't always want to hear what you have to say because it may be unpopular.
Yeah.
And if that means that doing my best by parents means I'm going to lose some followers, then so be it. Because I care enough about families and I care enough about your children, the little kids. That to me is really important.
That was so beautifully said. And integrity is everything to me. I want to make an impact. I know where my heart is. I know I'm following my purpose, and that's not always popular and people don't get it. And I don't care what is trending or any of that. I follow my gut and my heart. And it's never steered me wrong. I maybe have done things in not the smoothest way that I could have because I saw the point A and I didn't really know how to get there. And it's hard when you're in Hollywood and in the industry because you have a lot of people in your ear kind of trying to pull you in different ways. It's very, very, very hard to maintain integrity in our industry.
Oh,
in entertainment.
And I mean, in the entertainment industry, the importance of standing your ground in what you believe in.
Yes.
When so many people are willing to give you advice about, no, you shouldn't do that because of this.
Yes.
Or it may be perceived because of that. And you've got to trust that the people who watch you, who get you, who listen to you, really, and I'm going to say it from the gut intuitively, get you.
Yes.
Because if they get you, then they're on your vibe. They're on your wavelength, and they are your tribe.
Yes.
And that's what you have to trust at the end of the day. Otherwise, I mean, can you imagine what a wreck we'd be? if you had to please people? I'm not saying don't be collaborative and open to suggestion, but you know what you know. And I think it's important to remember that at times when it's tough. And the industry is one thing, but coming up in the industry as a woman is a whole nother topic as well.
And a plus size woman, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. Wow, I'm so happy you're here. I talk
Thank you
about
for having me.
Well, I talk about the universe all the time and like divine timing, and I feel immensely grateful for my life, but I also just never thought that, my little Mississippi self would be sitting here with you. So
I didn't think I would be sitting here. I was a young woman in England, looking after children as a professional nanny. Loved what I did, had the opportunity to troubleshoot and help families, and had this wonderful opportunity to help families in the capacity that I did.
Yeah.
And when you're on that real role of, traveling and helping and opportunities are opening up. You're not an overnight success.
No.
You're a 10-year, 11-year, 15-year overnight success. Do you know what I mean? Because you've put the work in.
Yeah.
Because it was important to you, because you were passionate about that. So,
well, before I start, I have so many questions for you, but before I started off, I always play a game. And obviously there were questions that involved for Bowie before he was gone. But so we'll
answer his as well.
We'll do his too. Okay. So we're going to play Never Have I Ever. Are you familiar with Never Have I Ever?
I'm assuming it is what it is, though, right? It is.
So basically, we are going to hold up a hand and show 5 fingers, and we're going to keep up our hands. And each time I read a statement where you have done it, you're going to put a finger down.
I have done it. Put a finger down.
Yes, that's it.
Okay.
All right. So, Joe, are you ready to play Never Have I Ever?
Yep. Okay.
There's nothing crazy.
All right. Okay.
Okay. Never have I ever had a home haircut during COVID.
A home haircut? I've had a home haircut. No, I haven't.
You haven't?
No, I haven't.
So leave your finger up. I'm putting a finger down because...
Oh, you have?
I have.
Yeah, I haven't. No, I haven't. Sorry, I haven't.
Have you...
Look at my brain. It's been at home too long.
Never have I ever danced in front of a mirror.
Have I danced in front of a mirror? I have with Eli.
There you go.
I've danced in front of a mirror.
Put a finger down. Never have I ever behaved worse than a child. I feel like it's a complicated one.
Yeah, I feel like this is a good one, right?
Yeah.
So I talk about tantrums, and I talk about emotional tantrums when children have meltdowns because emotionally they're feeling.
Yes.
And I certainly know through my life I've had complicated circumstances where I would have had meltdowns.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I'm gonna do that.
I have.
So I have,
yes. Never have I ever eaten food that's fallen on the floor.
Oh, I so have.
I have.
Oh my God, are we not mums? Or, and helping and nannies? I so have.
I've eaten so many questionable things that have fallen on things that I had like pizza cheese down on the ground. I've still eaten it. All right. And then the last one, never have I ever lied about taking a bath or shower to get out of it.
Yes. Oh no, I haven't lied. No.
As a kid,
you're like,
I would be like, yes, I showered. And my mom would be like, you haven't showered in like 3 days, Ryan. Go shower.
I love that though. When the kids, when you turn around and say to the kids, so, if you washed your hands then.
Yes.
Like, yeah. Yes. Looking you straight in the face. Yes, no, I washed, look. Dry as a bone.
Yes. Dry as a bone, but also probably in Bowie's case, it would be covered in like sticky slime and like something. And you're like, well, you're fibbing, aren't you?
Did you brush your teeth?
Yeah.
Yes. I brushed my teeth, yes.
Right. Thanks for playing with me. So this week, so I live in an apartment building and like a high-rise apartment building. And it's new for us. I've never lived in an apartment. We were in a house before my divorce.
Okay.
And I love my building. But this week, I experienced something very stressful. The emergency system went off in my building, but it wasn't just the fire alarm. It kept speaking over, there's been an emergency. Please evacuate. Stop what you're doing. So Bowie was asleep.
Yeah.
And they had shut the elevators down. So I grabbed him and I carried him down, 10 flights of stairs.
Yeah.
Go down there. And then we're sitting outside. And we're at a bus stop because I live in a very residential area.
Yep.
And we were there for a couple hours until we could go back in our building. And
was everyone safe?
Everyone
was there really
safe.
a fire? Was it a drill?
There was not. It was a faulty alarm, but then the alarm went off every 30 minutes until about 1 p.m. the next day.
Wow.
So it was traumatizing, especially I knew what was happening. It was so loud.
Yeah.
So I guess I just wanted to ask you, like in those situations where, because for me, I had a moment where I was like, wait, I'm a mom. I didn't grab my wallet. I didn't grab my portable phone charger. I didn't grab my purse. I grabbed nothing. And like, you're in that situation. And I feel like maybe this is just me assuming, but I feel like you would have been much more calm and collected in that situation. Or you would have been like, because I guess like, how do you handle, like, how do you keep your cool in situations like that? Because I I felt like once I got down there, I just got us out. That's all I cared about.
Well, I just want to say you did the right thing, meaning safety comes first.
Yes. Yeah.
So, you're being hard on yourself. You grabbed your kid, which is what you should have done, and you got out.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because all of that means nothing. But life is life, right? I think we've kind of learnt that, right? Most importantly, over the last, year, right?
Yeah.
So don't be that hard on yourself because you grabbed Bowie and you got out.
I did.
The other thing that you asked, the other question, is how do I stay composed? I think it's really important to understand that children will always emotionally, because you're connected to the kids, right? Emotionally, if you're feeling overwhelmed or you're feeling out of sorts, then in circumstances where parents have situations where the kids are having meltdowns and there's a lot of intensity and arguing, they can get caught up in that tornado of emotion. And I teach a technique called the SOS technique, which is to be able to step back and to brace, observe, work out what's happening, kind of like what a paramedic would do, right? And to step in with action. But in those cases where you're in a building, like drills are really important. So what I like to do is to be able to, because we are in California, the importance of having an emergency little box or a bag already by the side. So I do think it's important.
Yes.
So if you're a family that has 3 or 4 kids, I don't think it's a bad idea every now and then to do a drill. We see, unfortunately, these drills now being done in school because of obviously the circumstances in California, in schools.
Yeah. I didn't even originally go into that asking you for advice, but I am grateful for your advice. And also, as you were saying that, I remembered how I was stressed, but Bowie, when I woke him up, it was 10:30 at night. This alarm is blaring. He was and I don't know if it's because I was like really calm, like I didn't freak out because
he was decisive. Like the alarm went off.
Yes.
There could be a fire.
Yes.
You took him. There was it's kind of like
he didn't fight me. He literally was like put on his shoes, his sweater.
Because he knew.
Oh, okay.
Because he knew, because what I talk to parents a lot about is it's energetic parenting. It's the energy. It's the energy when you show up and you mean what you say. And it has a different tone, a different inflection. The energy is different. You're concise. You know exactly where you're going. You knew exactly what you were doing. And there was no wavering. And he felt that. You were like, Bowie, you need to get up. Get up now. Come, go, done. There was no messing around. He knew.
You're so
that
good at
assertiveness.
that.
He knew. But for yourself, you're very intuitive. You're a Cancer.
I am.
So you're very intuitive.
Yes.
So you'd have that relationship with Bowie as well, where you'll get the feels and it's trusting your gut on that. So, for you, that will also come with a sensitivity. So the alarm bells going off will feel quite screechy for you. That'll feel quite
How do you
intense.
know that? I have a sensory disorder, so it's even more intensified.
That's me feeling your energy. So when you're in tune with who you're sitting with, you can feel their energy. And so that's why I've said it. So again, for you, something like, having headphones.
Yes.
Right? Or sometimes you might have to walk around the house when Bowie decides he wants to blast some music and you're not feeling it and you're not in that space. You put some earplugs in, right? Just to lower it down slightly for yourself. So again, that for you can create anxiety when you're woo, 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 and you're hearing it. So, oh my God,
Yes.
So when you learn more about your sensory overload, right, and your sensitivity, right? Because that comes with your intuitiveness.
Yes.
You can educate yourself more in being able to have more of that balance and learn how to create more zen, right? That's the right word. An environment that's more peaceful so that you're not in fight or flight mode all the time. You're in chill mode. You're in that space.
it's so surprising to hear you say this because cancers are very intuitive and people make fun of cancers all the time for being sensitive, intuitive. But really, I think of it as a superpower because I'm very in tune to people. I can feel people's energy. But as you were talking about fight or flight mode, my next question before I got my next like debriefing of my week before I got into the questions was going to be along the lines of me going through my divorce and also trying to navigate dating. But when I was in my divorce, and you might not know this because I don't know how long you followed me on social media, but I met. This is my first time meeting Jo, but she had commented on an Instagram post of mine. I flipped the fuck out. I screamed. I screenshot it. I sent it to about like 5 people in my life. No big deal. And then I asked her to be here. But I had shared a couple months ago that I was in an abusive marriage. And it was extremely abusive in a lot of ways. I don't need to get into details, but my kids are now in therapy because of it, and they're both doing as well as can be expected given what we've all been through. But I am such a better parent now. I'm still very hard on myself. I'm still working on that. But I'm such a better parent because I was constantly in fight or flight. My older son already has anxiety. So they were like mirroring that. And of course, it sounds like common sense when you're saying it. But when you're in flight or fight, you don't really realize it sometimes until now. It's been 1.5 years that we've been on our own. And I'm like kind of shaking talking about it. So I have to like
breathe.
Take a deep breath.
Yeah.
It's been
because it's reactional again. It brings that all up.
Yeah.
Right? It's triggering.
It is. And I also feel safe with you. So I'm probably like a bit more, it's been interesting navigating the parent that I'm becoming versus kind of who I thought I was because, seeing Bowie is much calmer, really my only issue with him, not even an issue, and it's my own fault because what you learn on Supernanny that Jo teaches all of us is that it's rarely it's not the kid's fault. It's, it's whatever, parents parenting, which I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it's been really interesting seeing the parent that I've become and how calmer my life is and how calm they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's incredibly important, especially with professionals, showing so much research on, childhood experiences, adverse childhood experiences and the environment that we create for our children.
Yeah.
And so, you're healing, we're all healing, we're all working on it.
We are.
And if we're not, we hope that we're going to bring ourselves to a courageous space of recognizing, the inner child, who we were when we were younger and the work that we do as adults. And I think birth triggers that for a lot of mothers. I think as soon as they become mothers, it triggers this anxiety. We start to think about, our own childhood, the things that we go on to auto-parent. I call it auto-parent. The things that we take that's great, the stuff that we know we want to definitely leave behind, and the decisions that we make and what we want, what's important to us. But the fact that you've become more self-aware, and yes, the encouragement for anybody to recognize that, our insecurities and our ego that say, oh, we don't need help, I would encourage anybody, to go and get that professional help and to read and to learn more, to be able to help themselves as well as seek that professional advice, because you break the mold.
You do.
You're able to break the mold in how you raise your own children and to recognize that optimal function as a family. And I think that's incredibly important for our children,
Yeah.
So well done for you for being on that journey and continuing, because you've got to show up and do the work, and the work's not easy. It's not easy.
It's not, but, and like you were saying, I would much rather have my boys look back and see, what their mom did and choosing my own happiness and their happiness over something that just was making we were all unhappy. And so
but also
choosing myself,
Yeah, but let's also not make an excuse for abuse, because it's really important that you're raising 2 boys. And it's important that they grow up understanding the importance of what healthy love looks like. Absolutely. And we're in a moment of redefining masculinity as well, and the importance, and the importance of them recognizing, respect for their mother and for every other woman that will be in their life, and recognizing the importance of how to show up, as the young men that they will be, in treating others, with kindness and empathy, and their own little personalities are going to shape on their own, So it takes a lot of strength. I just want to acknowledge that. That's all. That it took a lot of strength,
Thank you.
And I don't think it's too late for anybody else. I hope that they're listening, and I hope that you continue to be a beacon of light for those young women who are in those circumstances as well, that one day may say, you know what, I've got to put myself first to be able to help my children.
Absolutely.
Do better. So kudos to yourself in finding that courage.
Thank you. Yeah. And thanks for saying all of that. And a ton of people reach out to me kind of saying they were in similar situations, which is part of why I spoke about it, or asking me kind of how I did it. And, for me, it's even, I don't want to relate this to growing a career, but what people see is that I left one day. What they don't realize is how long that took and what that looked like. And I've spoke before that not every parent is given the opportunity to leave. I understand that I am one of the lucky ones that was able to leave. But then there's a lot that aren't. So
and there are charities. There are charities out there, and I want women to know, and men, right? Because this happens to men as well. Domestic abuse also happens to men as well. But for women who may have found themselves in circumstances where they are looking after their children and they are financially provided for by the male figure.
Yes.
And you talk about your career that gave you that, but that they are in a space to know that they can reach out, that there are resources out there, that there are places that they can reach out to, and not to stay because of that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for listening to my week. And I feel like this whole part of, slumber parties and hanging out with people this is what you do. I mean, when you're hanging out with your girlfriends, you just instantly, I feel like anytime I have a slumber party, I've got we're going to do snacks and drinks and this, and you instantly just get into the hot goss. And so, except ours was a bit more meaningful.
Yeah, it's just a little bit different, right? I guess on point with the work being done and stuff like that. But it's kind of that's what you do with your girls, right?
It is.
You have moments when you talk about all the fun stuff and gossipy stuff, and then, oh, hey, guess what?
Yeah. So I want to ask, for those that don't know, and I actually don't know because I know you from TV. I didn't deep dive into your life because I wanted to get to know you. So I want to know, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but how did you get started into what you're doing?
Yeah. So I started off as a professional nanny. That was my career. Way back then, loved, obviously working for different families and long-term for families in London. And that took me to different parts of the world as well, traveling with those families. And then I went to a place after so many years of troubleshooting. So I was looking after children and troubleshooting. My father used to joke about, the house line back then being the nanny hotline, right? Because people would call and they'd be like, look, I've got a situation, I don't know really how to, change this. And I would help those families. And so when the opportunity came around for Supernanny, it was sort of a little soundbite that said, do you have a certain amount of experience to be able to help families? And I was looking through for theatre for the children that I was looking after at the time and families I was helping. And I thought, I'd like to do that. Yeah, I've got lots of information to help families. And so I just said, very casually, picked up the phone, hey, my name's Jo, got lots of advice. It was so just nonchalant, okay, put the phone down, go out with a friend, and that was it.
Yeah.
So I got a phone call where I was asked to come down to this building. Didn't really know anything about production, TV, all that kind of stuff. It was just in a place where there was a great shopping lanes. So I thought, oh, great, I'll go down there and then I'll go shopping.
Was it in London?
Yeah, in Brighton.
Oh, I love Brighton.
Yeah, it was in Brighton. So I thought to myself, oh, well, I'll go down there and then I'll go with my friends and we'll go shopping. I need a pair of boots, so I'll just go shopping.
Just casual.
Yeah, it was so casual. And I was asked some questions, regarding children and sleep and eating and behavioral stuff. So I just very candidly spoke, and that led to a phone call to help a family, which then led to a phone call with Channel 4 in the UK wanting myself to help families. And they weren't quite sure how the format was going to sort of work out. But really, it was based on the work that I was doing with troubleshooting and helping families, and I had this wonderful executive producer, Amanda Murphy, who said to me, well, what do you do when you go in? I said, well, this is what I do. I go in and then I'll leave them and then I'll talk and then just do your thing. Just you go and do your thing. So it was marvelous that this woman was able to just, say to me at the time, just go in and do your thing,
So was your technique, you go into the houses and you observe before you really do anything, and then you kind of like watch them, and then is that something that you were already doing? Were you going into the homes and observing?
People would headhunt and troubleshoot and find me and say, I've heard, I was given your number. I heard that you help families. Wow. And then they would call. So I would then say, oh, I'll come and meet you. And then I'd go and meet. And then what I would do, which is very different, obviously, in the format way we break things down. Yeah. But I would go in and then, observe and then help them that evening, and actually say, look, these are the things that we're going to want to do. And then there'd be follow-up. And it's what I do now. So, you see on television me making shows, but forever, for 16, 17 years, I do private consultations. So I help families.
Wait, so people can / me, because I'm going to get into my parenting advice in a minute. People can hire you to come in and do this in their home.
Yes. So they can hire me to come and do this in their home, or...
My jaw just dropped.
Or what I do is I do live Zoom links. So whilst when I'm filming, and then when I'm not, I may be asked to go in and help a family. So go in and observe, but I would follow straight through with being able to, sit down and say, look, this is what I've observed. And then to go in the next day and do the work for several days. And then I would do a follow-up with them. So I've been flown to different parts of the world to do that with families.
I'm obsessed.
Yeah. So, there's the Zoom link.
Yeah.
Right. So people will ask for consultation and I do Zoom links with them, especially, throughout the times of the pandemic.
Yes.
It's
been very hard.
It's been extremely hard. So there was a lot of public service in helping those doctors and nurses and essential workers and families that really at that moment, it was so scary for them. And I really felt the importance of being that reassuring, calm voice in this moment, in being able to say, let's take a look at what's happening. And that's what I'm still doing now. Like, I've got, like I said to you, I've got the live events, they're happening right now.
Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Okay.
If you want to.
Yeah. So the virtual live events have launched and they are going to be going out every month. Twice every month.
Love that.
Yeah, to help the families.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, right up until December. Yeah. So there'll be moderated questions for all different ages of children, family, and then the interactive throughout of parents being able to ask me questions. And I literally get through as many as I possibly can to help those families.
I know you will because you're Cancer. So you talked about this a little bit, but and I can tell just from now being best friends with you. I'm not going to stop saying it, the power that I have now. How did you know that you were truly aligned with your purpose?
Because it felt right. There's no other way of there's no there's another way of explaining it.
It's a simple answer, isn't it?
Felt right.
Yeah.
It felt everything about it, everything, everything. And it feels absolutely spiritually very rewarding. I love families. I love children. And I love being able to help families.
I can tell that you do. And that comes across, on TV. And before we aired, I kind of mentioned this, but I think I really want to talk about it because you touched on something that really made me, I'm glad to hear someone else say it, but also it doesn't get talked about enough. So, obviously you're plus size.
Yeah.
You have been on TV, in America for 16 years. Mm-hmm. And you, first of all, always looked stunning. You in all of your
Thank you.
all of your outfits.
Thank you.
Always, literally, the person Lucas who was doing my hair this morning was like, he's very gay, just like me, but over the top. But Lucas was like, she always looked so cute. Her hair and makeup was always on point. And I was like, she did look cute. But what I love—
The glam squad. I'm taking no credit for that.
You always look so beautiful. But it was so refreshing, especially then, because 16 years ago, we weren't talking about plus size body positivity, none of that stuff. For you to exist on TV being plus size, but it was never about your size. It was always about how highly qualified and talented you were in what you did and how passionate you were about what you were doing. And it was never about your size. Whereas now, at least for me, when I talk about things, they'll talk about my success for maybe a little bit, and then it's always diminished by my health or size. I feel like you wouldn't tolerate that.
Well, no, I'd answer those questions though, because they were and they do occasionally still get asked. So I'll be asked about my career or, the importance of family. And then, somebody might say to me, did you feel pressure being in Hollywood because of your size? And I'd say, meaning, could I do my job if I was smaller, you mean, or better? If I was smaller. So, my size does not define who I am.
It doesn't.
So, I think at the moment, they would like, oh, I can see what you're saying. And I think for me, what was really important is that what you think about my size is really your business and not mine.
Absolutely.
Right? It's your business, not my business. However, if we are together collaboratively looking at how we're going to help families, then that's the focus, based on my skill set, my expertise, right, in being able to do that. However, am I going to get those, and do I still get those comments about being plus size? Of course.
Yeah.
But is there an old saying, I think, that Winston Churchill said, that if you just stopped at every dog that barked, like you'd never get to where you were going. Like, I don't have time, for those that have clearly nothing else better than to pick apart the work that I'm doing. I know where I'm going. I know what I'm doing. And families know,
Yeah.
like yourself, where you're going, your path. Certainly, like myself, you're trailblazing in a very different way, right? But again, I also have this empathy towards those people as well, because I realize that they're in a space that's very insecure and they're hurting as well.
Yeah.
So when you receive that, sometimes I'll look and think, I'll ignore that one. And then sometimes I'll get a text that will come up and I think, they're really hurting. They sound like maybe they're struggling with the kids. And I'll say, let's please remember to be kind. And I'm sure it's been really difficult for you with the kids. And it's not always easy. So I reach out with empathy. And they'll either be quiet, or sometimes they'll say thank you. And all of a sudden you'll get this kindness back. So again, people have bad days. And then there are trolls that just, I think, wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning and go to bed at midnight. And that's their purpose. You know,
they do.
Yeah.
I wanted to, you mentioned off air, but I wanted to touch on it a bit. You talked about the fact that, and from my experience being a fat mom, I call myself fat is what it is. Being fat, plus size
People
mom.
are offended by the name fat, aren't they, in America?
People get so mad that I call myself fat. They get like really mad. In the UK, it's different. They don't.
No, in the UK, it's very different. But I realize here it's offensive.
Yes.
I understand going, oh, you're fat, the delivery, the tone.
Of course.
But it's fat.
Yes. But also, why can't I call myself fat when I'm fat? It just doesn't make, to me, it's just also like there's more things to be hung up on than that.
Yes.
But being a fat mom, you know, plus size, whatever you want to call it, is challenging in itself. But it's only challenging because of perceptions that are placed upon my abilities to parent, because people make it about my size. And one of them, you brought this up, which made my brain explode, because no one really ever talks about this with me in general, is the conversations around nutrition and your own children when you're fat. And you spoke about this earlier.
I think because I believe there's a sort of happy medium in this conversation, you know, that shows that your own eating habits, if you're not mindful and aware of that, then what you're laying out for yourself as far as healthier options and portion control, certainly we know that families that are not aware of that or educated in that space can then raise their children, right? Giving them unhealthy options and also portion control, right? However, just because we are fat, it does not mean that we don't know what is healthy.
Yes.
Right? Or how to cook healthy or portion control when it comes to giving children the correct amount of food. And I get, you know, and I get people that say the same to me. You know, they'll say, well, you're teaching families how to raise their children healthy and you're a plus size, you know, you're fat, you're big. And I'm like, yes, I'm educating families how to do that. And when I'm with children and my grandson, we are eating healthy. And there really aren't. You know, there's not the seconds and the thirds and there's the food and that's the portion control and these are the healthier options. But again, I find that it's very lazy. It's kind of like saying, what do you know about kids? You don't have them. You don't. What do you know about children? You don't have children yourself. And you're kind of like, well, what does that say about the mother who just adopted 2 children?
Absolutely.
Because she didn't biologically give birth to those kids.
Absolutely.
Does that mean that she can't be in tune with those children or parent and raise them well?
Absolutely.
You know, so I find it quite lazy, really.
It is lazy. And also my kid's eating gummy bears right now, but it doesn't mean that my kid's going to be fat. It just means that he's eating gummy bears.
This means right now that they're eating gummy bears. But again, don't you think it's polarizing conversations?
It is. It is.
You know, it's not about, you know, everything's about moderation, right? And I think it's a more in-depth conversation that we never get on television. It's always sound bites.
It is.
Sound bites here and there.
Yeah.
And also, you know, I've been slimmer and I am at my biggest right now.
Aren't we
right?
all?
Yeah. I mean, seriously, I'm at my biggest right now. And that's where I'm at right now.
Yes.
Right now, that's where I'm at. I might not be like that in 6 months' time or 3 months, but this is where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
You know, and it's being accepting of that.
Absolutely.
You know, I think it's being accepting of that.
I agree.
Yeah.
So changing gears for a second, watching you on TV, and one of the things that I learned very quickly is that, you know, I think oftentimes with the perception of your show is that people are like, God, the kids are so bad. But it's rarely, it's the parents' dynamic. And I was, at least in my opinion, you're the expert. I just wanted to know, have you ever come across a situation where you've been with these families and the parents are just unwilling to do what needs to be done for the children? Or do they eventually give in?
Is there resistance? Is that what you're asking? Is there resistance?
Yeah, like
I have been met by parents
who they just refuse to change. Like the kids are on board, but the parents are like digging their feet in, you know?
Well, the kids are on board through application of the parents being educated, of knowing what to do better, unless it's teenagers, right? Because teenagers, right? You know, it's important that they're also heard and that they're a part of the mix. Younger children are looking for parents to give them that guidance. And I think it's really important to give children a voice, you know, to be able to express how they feel and give them that respect, right? There have been parents that will resist and push against that because it's, you know, they're used to wearing the old familiar coat that is secure and safe, even if it is dysfunctional, right? So that takes a lot of, you know, a lot of talking and educating and analogies to bring a family to a space of truly understanding it. Because if you don't understand what I'm saying, then nobody really can expect you to follow through, right?
Absolutely.
So if they understand, then the better chance of being able to follow through and to encourage and empower these families to do that. But I've certainly, you know, certainly have had families that have pushed, well, season 8, I got asked by, you know, a family in Hawaii, they asked me to leave. You know, they asked me to go. You know, I was very honest. The lady was a psychologist. And so I spoke in certain professional manners with her. And I was blindsided. I was asked to leave very abruptly and aggressive. You need to leave now. You know, like, we're not having this. And again, I saw an immediate form of wanting to control, you know, what I said and how I was going to say things. But I am unapologetically me,
you
know, and the work that I do. And, you know, families are either on board or they're not. So I do get pushback. I was able to have a conversation with those families, you know, and to see them push forward. And sometimes for some of those families, it doesn't pan out. For some of those families, I was the last chance saloon, a mirror to those families of the work that had to be done. And sometimes for those families, they never chose to continue even when they had, you know, the experience and the education in front of them. And like they say, you know, you can bring a horse to water, but you won't want to force the horse to drink the water. Yeah. And I think it's very egotistical for any professional to think that they can fix a family, help a family. You know, for me, it's about being able to give my guidance and my expertise and hope that it's enough to make them believe and hold on to hope that it's possible for that change. And for them, you know, those numbers are really small, but it does happen. You know, there are times when it just doesn't pan out for those families because one wasn't prepared to commit to continue doing the work. And for others, it went on. You know, I speak about the Swan family that was like in season 3 or 4. You know, when I first arrived, they put divorce papers on the table and said, this is where we're at, Jo.
I remember.
Like, this is where we're at. And that lady still emails me every year.
No, she doesn't.
And those children are grown men. I
was going to ask because as you were talking, I know we were talking about something very differently, but, you know, it must be so incredible and also strange there's kids. I mean, I remember because I've been watching the show since it started. You have kids that are your grandson's age, my little one's age, and now they're full-fledged adults.
Yeah, they were teenagers watching the show, and now they're young men and women, and they've got kids.
Yes.
They've got 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds. Some of them have got 5-year-olds, you know, So they grew up watching, and, you know, hey, I'm just fortunate that I'm still around and they're still watching. And it's quite cool, you know, that you still get a little bit of street cred when the teenagers see you and they're like, yo, Supernanny, what's up? You know, you're like, okay, all right, this is good. I'll take this.
Do you get folks that like stop you in like the grocery store? I feel like people must stop you and want to ask you parenting advice at inappropriate times. Does that happen? Or am I making it up?
I am so do you know what? I am so lucky.
Yeah.
because families who come up to me are either really excited and they're, like,
that's what I did when you walked
really
in
excited.
today.
Oh my God. Or they're really calm there and they just very politely come up to you and say, I just want to let you know that you just changed my family. And we are all, so I'm really lucky with respects to the reception, there's a lot of love. And I think when I first came over to America, it used to freak me out. I used to get really panicked because people just come and give me a big hug and kiss me and I was like a little bit like this, thanks. And I'd be like this shaking. I'd be like, oh my God, and it was actually my husband who said, it's okay. You'll get used to it. In the beginning, it took some time to get used to it.
I bet.
And now, now I'm in a more comfortable space, a more confident space, when people come up to me. But generally, I'm more introvert. You see me professionally do my job, but I'm an introvert. At heart.
Yeah.
If I'm going to go to a party, I'm going to jam, I'm going to dance, I'm going to have a rum and coke, but I definitely need to make sure as an empath that there's a car that if I need to go after an hour, I can just leave, So that's kind of me. That's
Jo,
that's
you
me.
and I are the same person.
So,
I feel like I'm looking in a mirror that's wiser.
So you
and
find
more
the party
graceful.
and I'll have the car.
All
right?
Listen.
You find the party. Okay.
Because as an empath, I am very much like messaging whoever that's picking me up. All right, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to be ready at this time, or I might be ready sooner. I'm going to have a rum and coke as well.
You like a rum as well?
I love a rum and coke.
So what rum do you love?
Listen,
Okay, this podcast just turned adult. Okay, this just turned adult. So you love a rum.
I love a dark rum.
Right.
I'm a dark rum drinker. I don't
Me too.
I don't have a preference on dark rum, but I started my rum journey. I started it with Malibu and pineapple juice, which wasn't as dignified as it's ended up being, but pretty much any dark rum I will drink.
So let me introduce you to the world of Mount Gay rum.
Okay.
Mount Gay.
Well, listen, I am a little gay, so.
The Black Barrel.
Okay.
Mount Gay rum. A very lovely West Indian Bajan from Barbados.
Okay.
Dark rum, yeah.
And what kind of just like regular Coke? Because I do cherry Coke.
So you can do it with cherry Coke, actually. It probably tastes quite nice. I do it just with, I love Coke Zero. So I'll do it with a Coke Zero and then some lime.
Yum.
Cut it with some lime.
We should have had that for our drink today.
A rum and Coke, a little bit big. Bob Marley, we'd be well away. That's
Bob
it.
Marley.
Chill.
Listen,
rum,
you had me. This might be for me and Jo hanging out outside the podcast. You guys,
people. To answer your question, the long-winded. Yeah, people come up into the supermarket and. Or when I was on the road, I'd be doing my own washing, and people would say to me in the laundromat, people would say, "Is that Supernanny, right?" I'd say, "Yeah, Jo, you're Nanny Jo, right?" I go, "Yeah," and they go, "What are you doing in here?" "Washing my underwear like you." I couldn't help it because. What a lot of people don't see, because I'm so much in houses dealing with extreme circumstances, I like to joke around. So, I'd go to the South and they're very polite and proper. "Pleased to meet you, ma'am. Would you like a cup of tea?" Because obviously being from England, right? Mm-hmm. And I'd say, I tell you what, I'd love a scotch. A scotch and scotch on the rocks would be nice. And they'd look at me like, "My God, she's asked for a scotch. You got a whiskey or a scotch?" And I go, "Not really." So I'd like to kick around and have jokes, because you see 48 minutes of a show, but I was spending 200 hours with a family. So there's a lot of play, and it's really hard on the edit floor what gets left. You're like, "Oh, can we put that in? Can we squeeze that in? Can we have that joke and do that?" So
I love that.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you a parenting question, but now it feels weird because
now you want a rum and coke.
I want a rum and coke.
You want a rum and coke
I'm
now.
actually thinking about us hanging out after the podcast, and I know that we're running out of time soon, so I'll ask you a couple more questions. But I guess I'll leave my parenting question for after when I hire you, because now I know that that's a thing. You are very good with boundaries, and I want to know, as someone that is still working on boundaries, not just in my personal life, but mostly parenting, because it's so important to have good boundaries parenting. Because I look at Bowie and Riley, it's a little bit easier. He's older. He doesn't try to get away with stuff like this little one does.
Yeah.
But I see him and I melt, and then I just end up caving and doing whatever he wants. So do you have, I guess, any advice for parents that are struggling with boundaries? I know that's kind of vague.
I think it's really important to understand why you want to be able to do a certain thing. So why is it important that children go to bed at 7:30 or 8 o'clock? Why is it important that children only have this amount of food on the table? Why is it important? You've got to ask yourself, why is it important, so that you can have that boundary? For example, why is it important that there's boundaries when it comes to socialization and your children playing and what's acceptable and what isn't? If you understand that better, you can stick to that boundary. Take sleep, for example. Number one issue with families. That was
going to be my question.
Right? Number one issue with families. If we understand the importance of how much sleep kids need, then we come from the perspective of, I don't need my kids in bed because I need an evening. I need my kids in bed first because I need them to get the sleep that's going to help them. And then I get an evening, right? So always come from it of the standpoint of the child.
Yes.
Right? So it's important that we have, a daily routine that supports that. Right? So that if our routine allows us to be able to recognize where we can balance, right? Because the seesaw's never just sitting straight, right?
You're right.
The seesaw never sits straight. Balance is that.
Yes.
When people talk about balance, they're like, oh yeah, balance. No. The seesaw is never just like that.
Yeah.
It's always a little bit more work, or you get some downtime, there's a little bit more there, right? It's always doing this.
It really is.
But that's the balance, right? So if we can understand the important cornerstones of that routine for a child, making sure that they have quality time over quantity consistently, and what's going to nourish them, right? Whether it's about food plan or sleep, right? Whether it's about what they're exploring, then that priority allows you then to be more in conviction with the boundary that you put in place. So for you personally, I would say that Bowie is a beautiful spiritual teacher for you, because I think that him in your life is teaching you every day to be a woman who's more confident in her parenting and more assertive, because in your life before, Bowie, you struggled with those boundaries. And again, he shows up as this spiritual teacher in teaching you to understand the importance of having boundaries and knowing that to do so is not to be mean. So when you've been in a relationship or you've had dynamics in your own family where they have been dysfunctional, and you've been somebody who has allowed those to step over and invade, right, and not have those boundaries, then it can make you feel mean if you put those boundaries in place.
Yes.
And you're so worried about showing up and your child thinking that you're being mean. But what you're forgetting about is the balance of all the fun things and the teachings that are positive.
Yes.
So if we can remind ourselves of that all the time as parents, it will help us to enforce the boundaries where necessary. And I say, that common phrase that I always say, mean what you say and say what you mean, but don't say it mean, because I think it's important for children to understand and respect boundaries, because with boundaries, there are healthier relationships, period.
Yes.
Co-workers, family members, parent and child.
I love that. Thank you for that. So if you're up for talking about it, the last kind of topic that I wanted to discuss was your food allergies, because I have been an advocate for folks that have food allergies, and I know it's really important to you, and you've been working on spreading awareness about this. So I want to kind of talk about why it's something that is so important to you and kind of how it came about.
Well, for myself, from the age of a toddler, I was diagnosed with anaphylaxis, life-threatening allergies. I was given an amazing upbringing around this subject because my family were they were very candid with the reality of what I had.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized, as I was growing up, I realized I was very outspoken about my anaphylaxis, but it was because I was empowered by my parents, right? And I was never, and it was only until I was actually thinking about this, helping a family with anaphylaxis, that I got really emotional about it and broke down. Because at that moment, I'd realized that they'd given me this amazing gift to really never feel that my life-threatening allergies defined who I was, could stop me, doing anything I wanted. The world was your oyster. Go for it. Travel. Do exactly what you want to be able to do. Explore. And it gave me the wonderful opportunity to use my platform to be a voice for so many families around the world who certainly need to be championed by those who lack the education and the empathy to understand the reality of what it's like living with a life-threatening allergy. So the importance of that education, the importance of self-awareness, and to be able to continue to relate to families, to parents, to kids, to teenagers. I was only recently doing a podcast for anaphylaxis where I was talking about, as a teenager, we couldn't, I couldn't just, think, oh, I'm going to kiss that guy. That guy may have had peanuts or he may have had shellfish.
Wow.
Like there was no going to a party and thinking, he's cute. Like, hello. Like, so just the awareness and just, really just trying to be on a level of, teens and how it is out there, right?
Yeah.
Like street level, right? In being able to have those conversations. So for me, it's really important to be able to continue educating and to continue learning, because I'm certainly am learning from, the charities and the resources that are out there, whether that's FACT, whether that's FAIR, whether that's Allergy Living, Anaphylaxis Campaign in the UK, just working, with these campaigns to be an ambassador and to be a voice, because it's incredibly important that we start to change policy and law.
Yes.
And unfortunately, I've had circumstances that have been gravely disappointing and humiliating. And when I read of young children who have died because of a lack of diligence with respects to understanding and taking the point to be educated about anaphylaxis, that to me is one life too many.
Absolutely.
So again, there is more understanding and education in Europe. And I do hope in this country we can continue to learn and to be a bigger voice, for the millions of families, millions of children and adults who are living with anaphylaxis every day.
Yeah.
That navigation, but being able to do that in a space that doesn't create constant anxiety, but to recognize what can I control in my environment? What do I have to remind myself to be very diligent of every day, and to have that, vigilance so that you can keep yourself safe. And I'm not free of that.
Yeah.
I've had anaphylactic shocks, and I carry my EpiPens with me. But it's very important for me.
It's more scary for people that don't understand that it's a real thing. And it's not like, people often make fun of folks that are like gluten intolerant or dairy intolerant as like being quote unquote too sensitive, but it's like not that. It's a real life or death thing. And I think in America, oftentimes things like this are politicized and there's things placed upon it that shouldn't be.
Yeah, it's minimized when it shouldn't be. The seriousness of it needs to, hold some weight, so that people have clarity of exactly, what this life-threatening allergy is all about.
Yeah.
But again, it's portrayed in movies. Peter Rabbit recently, the movies of, anaphylaxis or, Hollywood movies where you don't see the anaphylaxis signs and symptoms shown truly.
Yes.
Right? And then they'll say, oh, just use some Benadryl. No, you need epinephrine.
Yes.
Right? In order to help save your life, hopefully, because really it's a buying time.
Yes.
Right? To get to that hospital. And the truth of the matter is you take it to buy time to get to the hospital and, to carry two.
Mm-hmm.
You always have to carry two in case you need that second one. Again, but it's minimized as if it carries no weight. And again, I need people to understand that. That's why I continue to do the work in being able to, talk about it and hope that, it can have some difference.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping, that will make some difference.
I mean, of course it makes a difference. And, it's a weird thing to say, but like you just even explaining the food allergy thing as talking about it as important as it is, it's just like the cherry on top of all of the amazing things that you're doing and why I was so thrilled to have you today because you're truly making the world a better place in so many different ways.
Thank you. Well, that's the intention,
Yeah.
I just want inclusion. So if I get on an airplane, I want health and safety the same as everybody else who bought their plane ticket, like I did, So until we can see the importance of airlines being consistent with their policies and changing that, I can't tell you the amount of adults that have tantrums in front of me, next to me, because they couldn't eat. And I'm allergic to shellfish and all nuts because they couldn't eat a 2-ounce packet of peanuts on a plane.
Well,
I'm like, I got a super nanny now. These adults. I had one woman who actually came up to me and poked me while I was asleep.
No, she didn't.
She poked me, and I kind of, went, hello, and she said, I just need you to know that you have stopped me from having my snack. And I said, oh, right, okay. So would you like a piece of candy? And she said, no, I don't. I said, okay, well, thank you. I hope that made you feel better for sharing that with me, and then she went off. But, that's where we're at. So, hey, look, you're not always going to be liked for talking about what's important, right?
You're not.
But, I hope that the intention is to continue making a difference.
That's a great way to end it. And before I let you go, Jo, I ask all of my guests the same question, and I want to ask you the same. How did you show your self-love today?
Oh, I got a wash and blow dry today.
Yeah, you did.
I did. Yeah, the salon was empty, and I was like, "Hey, can I come in for a wash and blow dry?" They were like, "Yeah." I was like, "Great."
Oh,
I got wash and blow dry today.
And I could tell because when she walked in, I mean, yes, I am mesmerized because it's her, but your hair was very bouncy and curly, and still is after these headphones.
Yeah, wash and blow dry.
We're gonna take a selfie and document this hair after.
You got beautiful hair too, though.
Thank you.
Beautiful hair.
Thanks. I want to thank you so much for being my guest today and hanging out with me on my slumber party. It's been such a joy.
I appreciate.
And how can our listeners and viewers find you on social media?
Instagram, Jo Frost. Facebook, Jo Frost. Yeah, Twitter. Yep.
Jo Frost.
Oh, Jo Frost.
Jo Frost.
There we go, Jo Frost.
Thank you to everyone at home at your own slumber party for tuning in. And remember, if you were listening to this episode, you can check us out on YouTube. Or if you were watching this episode, you can also listen to us anywhere that you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to follow, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts and like and subscribe on YouTube. Thanks, y'all.